give a heads up to everybody, okay? 2. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to go live with the stream. So we will be starting in, about 10, 15 seconds, lads? 1 minute. So make yourselves ready. I want to hear a big roar out here when we introduce William and our guests and all that goes with it. And I'll also be giving you details about the competition and the draw and how to get the tickets, all of that stuff when we're actually live. So give us a count in, lads, and we'll get things started. A very good evening to you. Welcome to the home of the Connacht clan, a second home for Connacht fans all around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, we are here in Murty Rabbits in Foster Street. Now, before we introduce our main presenter of the evening, I have to do just a little reminder to all the people here in Murty Rabbits about a very special draw that will take place later on. There are 7 fantastic prizes for everybody who's here, and we're also raising money for a fantastic organisation, and William will give you more details on that in a moment. But for the benefit of those who are here in Murty's, and if you're not here, then you should be, because you're going to miss a fantastic evening with some brilliant guests as we look back on Connacht 25 years ago, an amazing run that saw them go to the quarter-final. They were beaten by Agen, but they also made history by becoming the first Irish province to win away in France and in England when they beat Northampton. And we can't forget the win either against Beige Bordeaux. And one of the try scorers from that win over Northampton is also one of our guests. More on that a little bit later on. 25 years ago was that famous season, and we look forward to this coming Saturday afternoon when Newcastle visit the sports ground for our opening game of the European Challenge Cup 2022-2023. So I'll just mention the prizes for those who are here, and those 7 prizes include the Christmas tree tickets that's been set up by Connacht Rugby. They're the games against the Sharks, Brive and the Lions. We've got Murty Rabbits vouchers to the tune of €50. There's 2 of those. We have got, for the big whiskey fans in the house, and I know 3 or 4, our friends from North Wales wouldn't say no to that either. They are the bottle of Jameson and whiskey set, and there's 2 of those. But our main prize, and it's for these people here only, so you've got maybe one last chance to get here as quick as you can. And they are tickets for Connacht and Newcastle this coming Saturday afternoon or Saturday evening in the sports ground, and the full hospitality package as well, all thrown in to make it a night to remember for any Connacht fan. How to get the tickets, we'll explain how to our crowd here and to all our supporters here in a little while. But now it is time for me to hand over the mic, and let's get the rugby talk underway. And no man better to do it than this guy. Ladies and gentlemen, please show your appreciation for our master of ceremonies himself, our main interviewer, ladies and gentlemen, William Davies.
Thank you very much, John. Good evening, everybody. Lovely to see you here, and also people on the stream. We're here tonight to talk rugby, but we're also going to raise some money for the Make-A-Wish Foundation, which is a charity that looks after seriously ill children. The idea is that they might have something that they're desperate to do, and they provide the finance to do it and the organisation. They also try to involve all members of their family. It's a great charity. I know it's a busy time of the year for charities. Everybody's looking, but if you can, please dig as deep as you can here. I know for people on the stream can't join in the prize draw, but you can donate online at themakeawish.com, or you can also go on to the Facebook page and look up Murty Rabbits, and they've also got a link to that. So please bear that in mind this evening as we move along. We've got 2 panels for you. The first panel, which will be coming up in a little while, momentarily, are going to talk about this season and what they expect to happen in Europe, which starts for Connacht next Saturday against Newcastle. And then we're going to go back in time to look at the 1997 season in Europe for Connacht. It was a historic season. It was when Europe was really only starting out as an idea. It was something that really has blossomed into something huge. Back then, nobody was quite sure where it would go, but Connacht grabbed their opportunity in '97 to create a little bit of history. So to talk a little bit about that season and just to throw out a few stats, I'm going to call to Alan Stato-Deegan. You must know him well. This man knows more about Connacht Rugby and the facts and figures than anybody else. He's beavering away at all hours of the day and night on this sort of stuff. So please, round of applause for Alan Deegan.
Thank you, William.
Connacht have been in the Challenge Cup a lot, Alan. It's a competition that maybe more than the Champions Cup. They've seen a lot of action.
Yeah, they've actually played more games in the Challenge Cup than any other club. With 127 games, so on the weekend it'll be 128. Actually, the clubs in second and third place are Brive and Newcastle, so it's going to be a interesting weekend, or an interesting little group that they have to take part in. We also have Connacht also have the player who's played the most Challenge Cup games in Michael Swift, the legend that has played there with 67 games. Eric made the top 5, 53, not bad. Eric is also the third highest point scorer in Challenge Cup history. So yeah, a lot of records for Connacht, and it's a competition we seem to love.
Yeah, and we've come across Newcastle and Brive before as well. Many of us will have been to Brive once or twice or 3 times.
Some of us quite like it.
Some of you do, yeah. I wouldn't exactly put it in my top 10 of French venues, but unfortunately they came out again. It's a record against Newcastle. We've won twice and lost 3 times to them. It's cold at the sports ground, I can tell you. It can be cold over there in December. I was there once for that. We won't even read that score out. But overall, Brive has won 3, lost 3, so they're always tight games. And this season, Connacht start at home on Saturday. And it's time now, thank you, Alan, to bring in our panel to discuss this season. We have 3 people here, so we will start with Tom Daly, who is sponsored by Murty Rabbits. We're delighted to have him. Tom, come up here and join me. We're also joined by one of the Connacht coaches, Dewalt Senekal, man who played no rugby till he was 24. He concentrated on cricket. I'm going to have to ask him about that. Dewalt, come up, join us. And finally, coming up to join me is one of the younger members of the Connacht squad. He's somebody who's starting off his career. Cathal Forde, come and join us. Gentlemen, change of pace this weekend, change of emphasis. Europe sort of comes around now, 4 games every season rather than the 6, and this slightly odd setup that Cardiff are semi-involved because they actually play Brive and Newcastle because they don't play each other. So somebody who must have been in a dark room for a couple of years came up with that plan, but it's certainly different. Tom, I'll start with you. What is Europe different to the domestic competitions, the URC, stuff like that?
Yeah, it definitely is different. I think for fans as well as players, it's just something special about playing European rugby. You probably play against players you don't usually get to see week in, week out. You'd know the opposition in the URC quite well at this stage, but I've never personally played against Newcastle or Brive, so it's a new challenge playing against new players. And as I said, there's a bit of a, I don't know what way to word it, but it's a bit special in playing in the European Cup. I suppose it's the Champions League of rugby. So yeah, no, really looking forward to it, and there's always a good buzz around the place on European weeks.
Dewalt, you've played in France, you've coached in France. How do they approach Europe? How does that fit in with the ethos of the top 14 over there, which is all the emphasis, but Europe is still pretty important. It's different for them as well.
Yeah, absolutely, William. Good evening, everybody. Yeah, it's still incredible competition. I think the word Tom was looking for is there's a nice energy about this week and seeing something different. As I said, the 2 teams that we're going to play, Newcastle and Brive, we just finished our preparation on those teams. It's something really different to what we're seeing in the URC. But coming back to your question about the French teams, I think the French have last few years have had a lot of success in the Champions Cup, and they take that competition extremely seriously. The Challenge Cup can sometimes be a challenge for some of the French teams because of a lot of teams that are involved in that bottom half of the table. There's a massive relegation battle week in, week out for them. So sometimes they won't put all their energy into the challenge, for example. But one thing that I do know is Brive, who we're going to be playing against in 2 weeks' time, is a team that's traditionally really respected the Challenge Cup, and they've gone to quarterfinals and semi-finals. So at the moment they are struggling in the top 14, but they're still an incredibly good side when we watch them, with some good game breakers. So I think they'll take us seriously. A lot of the teams, French teams especially, will use that second Challenge Cup game to finish the game with as close as their starting 15 would be the week after, which allows them to get a bit of game time to prepare the week after. So I'm expecting a stern challenge from the Brive guys. They're a proud club. There's a lot of pressure them on that team, on that coaching staff at the moment with results in the top 14. So yeah, I think first game this week in Newcastle, that's our first challenge against the Newcastle team that will challenge us with different plays and different style of play. A really good maul. So I think the best thing is we're at home, we're in front of our people, hoping the clan stand will be buzzing, and we're going to be playing in those beautiful jerseys. So really excited about that Newcastle challenge, but it's going to be a great 2 weeks for us because it allows us to try things, but it's also going to be some stern opposition.
Yeah, and on Saturday night we're going to get the full benefit of the new floodlights. So do you think that will help the people in the clan stand to help the referee even more, because they'll see much more now because of these fantastic lights?
No, they are magnificent, and I think the neighbours won't be enjoying them too much because they are really bright. And we had the opportunity this morning with the mist to put them on, and we saw a little bit better. But no, definitely, I think the clan stand will have a real good view of everything. But no, it's another step that the club's taking, the investment in the club around the pitch and the lights now, and the next phase would be obviously the training centre, the stand, and it's all just really positive for Connacht Rugby and the investment that's going there. Hopefully now our role in that from a pro rugby side is that we need to keep getting good performances and keep the rugby side really alive, so that these guys that are building that new facilities can really do that with a lot of peace of mind, knowing that the rugby side is really healthy.
Well, one of the things that helps a rugby side is to see younger players coming through. Cathal, you're very welcome along. You're starting your career with Connacht at the moment. So how you were in the Jazz school, so you played your rugby there, you played with Corinthians. Tell me, where have you come from?
Yeah, look, I'm from Galway myself, from Knocknacarra. I started out in Corinthians, I'd say, I think it was under nines. Played there up until this day, still have a few AAL games, even played this season, and went to the Jazz, obviously, and just kind of started to love the game from there, because schools rugby is always a bit of crack, and junior cup, senior cup, it's always class to get the whole school out to the sports ground for a cup final. So yeah, I've just loved rugby ever since.
Yeah, Schools Cup final day is one of my favourite days. It's the day that I finish up going home completely hoarse, because to make yourself heard you have to shout rather than commentate. Tell me about starting at that sort of age. It's so important that clubs offer that opportunity. You said you started at under nines. And it's part, if the structure is right, people will come through, boys and girls will come through at that stage, and they'll really find their feet in rugby and how much they enjoy it.
Yeah, like I still remember all the coaches I've had since then. I would have had like Niall Brown. He would have coached us from under nines up until under 18s, and now I'm actually out coaching with him because he's a younger lad with the under 17s. So I think it's great to get these lads in who are obviously coaching their own kids, but to have them up through the ages and they obviously know their stuff. So it's helped myself and a few of the other lads massively.
And what's it like then to turn into, come through the academy and turn into a professional setup? Was that always your dream when it was put to you that you could have that path?
Yeah, 100%. It was since I joined the sub academy into the academy, even playing in the under 18 and 19 teams. It was always the goal to be a professional rugby player, and obviously worked on my game and learned loads from the pro lads ahead of me and the academy lads, and managed to get there, thankfully.
Dewalt, apparently you didn't start playing rugby till you were 24. You were concentrating on cricket. This lad started playing rugby when he was 9. Can you explain to me how you can pick up rugby in South Africa when you're 24? Because I thought you started down there when you were about 6 weeks old. Your ball was thrown into the pram and away you went.
Yeah, well, it's a funny story. My uncle actually played 29 tests for South Africa at tight head. My other uncle, his brother, played for Eastern Province, and even my dad had a few games for the Eastern Province back in the day. So I was the apple that fell very far away from the tree. From a very young age, really fell in love with cricket, and one of my best mates is a guy called Johan Botha, who went on to play for South Africa, played in the IPL, and we were just inseparable. So we would spend every afternoon bowling and batting at each other in the backyard. So I just fell in love with the game and really enjoyed that part. And I was fortunate enough to play for all the provincial sides, under 16, under 19. So, and a lot of the times the winter squads for cricket would train in that time. So it would clash with the rugby. So my winter sport was a bit of squash back in the day, but yeah, and then just there came a period where a whole bunch of mates have said, "Listen, for the winter, why don't you try and stay fit with a bit of rugby?" And it just snowballed from there. Really enjoyed the physicality of the game. In cricket, unfortunately, you couldn't shoulder charge anybody at some and at stages you felt you wanted to, but so yeah, no, and just really enjoy the game, enjoy the camaraderie, enjoy the feeling of running out on the field, sacrificing for the team and for each other, and at the end of the day, that love of the game just built from there. I was never far away from a rugby field because of my family, but yeah, and then once it got going, it really snowballed. Within 8 club games, I had a professional contract and really enjoyed it, and the rest is the history, as they say. So yeah, no regrets. Love my cricket time. Rugby has been extremely good to me. It's taught me other lessons in life, and yeah, and today I'm here in the West of Ireland, really enjoying being with our team and with our forwards, and yeah, hopefully that'll continue for a while still.
Yeah, that is fascinating. Just 24, it's pretty old to start, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm keeping harping on about this, but I mean, I've never. It's usually, as I say, and you had a cricket bat in your hand, which must have been a frightening thought if you're hitting the ball, quite frankly. Having played a bit of cricket myself, I would have known what to do with a chap of this, shall we say, physicality landing on top of me in whatever he was doing with a cricket bat and ball. Tom, did you play any cricket?
No, cricket wouldn't be too big in Carlo, so...
Well, actually, now, I could tell you a lot of stories about playing cricket in Carlo, believe me, but some of them are a bit X-rated, so we won't. We'll leave that. A good tour, actually, Carlo and Kilkenny, many years ago. What's your feeling on your season so far? How do you think you're doing yourself personally? And just what is the vibe like? I mean, it's there's a great positivity, but the results maybe just haven't quite come as well as you would have expected.
Yeah, you probably summed it up quite well there. We had quite a difficult start to the season. I know when the fixtures came out, a lot of people were saying it's probably one of the toughest starts you could have, and we probably experienced that a little bit when we went up to Ulster and lost, and then had a couple of difficult games down in South Africa. But I think since then we've really started to pick up, and with that Scarlets win, the Munster win at home, Scarlets win, Ospreys away, and then Benetton at the weekend. I know that Munster away game was quite frustrating. We probably thought ourselves we could have done a lot better in that game, but I think there's been a nice shift in momentum, and we've had a couple of good wins over the last few weeks. So yeah, there's a little bit of a break in the URC now, so we'll look to hopefully build more momentum now over the next 2 weeks in Europe, and then obviously over Christmas is always a big time for us. So Yeah, as I said there, I think we had a difficult start, but we're starting to build some real momentum now within the squad.
Yeah, and it's home at Christmas, which is no harm, because last year we were supposed to go to Belfast on Stephen's Day and it was cancelled and back on and cancelled and back on about 10 times on Christmas Eve, but we didn't get to go. So it's nice to have the Christmas game here. It's high pressure though. Wins are required. Home games now very important. You've got a lot of home games coming up slightly ahead of your away games.
Yeah, definitely. Every game is kind of must win for us now at this stage because of the position we kind of found ourselves in after that start. But I think, especially when we're at home with the clan behind us, I think we should have every confidence going into the next few weeks. And as you said, we have a couple of tough games over Christmas. The Interpros, they're always kind of big games for us, and we seem to pull out our best performances in Interpros. So there's nothing better than a good Interpro at Christmas in the sports ground. So we're looking forward to that Ulster game on the 23rd. But as I said, we won't look past these two European games first.
Yeah, we're all looking for that game on the 23rd of December. Everybody's maybe getting, well, not everybody, but some people get a half day and they go to the pub and then they can get stuck in and get up to the sports ground and be ready to go at it. Dewalt, you've coached and played in France. You've played in South Africa. You came here 2 years ago. What has surprised you the most about rugby in Ireland that caught you maybe a little bit on the hop that you weren't expecting?
Well, I spent most of my rugby career, professional rugby career, I had 4 or 5 years in South Africa before getting to France in 2009, and I spent 13 years there. So a lot of my professional rugby and rugby experiences was in France, so as you rightfully said. So when the opportunity came along to come across to Connacht and experience rugby in Ireland, it was something that I didn't want to miss because I've always asked myself what it would be like to go and coach in an Anglo-Saxon environment and not in a Latin environment that I've been used to for the last 13 years. And it's actually lived up to every bit of my expectation of what I thought that would be like. The first thing that really shot at me is just the quality of player that there is here in Ireland. For a small player group, we've got some incredibly good rugby players that have got an ability, and this is the thing that struck me a lot with our forwards and with our backs, but especially me, who spend a lot of time with our forwards. It's just their ability to, intelligent rugby players, just really, really get stuff quickly and be able to do the fundamentals of the game consistently and not get bored with it. So that's one of the definite big differences between France, and you can understand that the Irish team and Irish rugby within Europe as well have always punched above their weight class a little bit, and it's because the players, through their intelligence, through their pride, through the heart and passion that they put into their rugby, they play bigger than what they actually are. I mean, physically we're not the biggest specimens in Ireland, but the players play big. So that's been a real positive for me, and I've really enjoyed coaching the lads. And one thing that I can look them in the eyes every day is I know that our boys will never cheat us. It will never be them not giving enough of themselves. They will always give enough. There will be mistakes, but they'll never cheat us. And that's one thing you can't coach, and what I love about this. Whereas in France, sometimes with the Latins, they can choose their games purely because of the length of the season. I had a season coaching Grenoble in the second division where we ended up winning the league and got promoted. We played 37 rugby games that season, including 3 warm-ups. So it's a lot of rugby, so it's difficult to be at your best every single weekend. So that's what I find with the URC. I think we had a good number of teams, 18 league games with playoffs, and now with the Challenge Cup, 4 games and then playoffs. But I think it's a good system where we can rotate our squad now, which is something we've put a lot of emphasis on this year. Not to burn guys out, but it's a good number of games where we can still look at getting performances out consistently. But yeah, no, that's the part I could say the most, is that just the intelligence of the player and the ability to play bigger than what they physically are.
And as an experienced coach, can you spot somebody who's not given 100% fairly quickly and possibly inform them of this?
Yeah, I think it's once again, since I've been here, it's never been a conscious decision. It's sometimes really subconscious. Like it's like in life. My best today would be here, my best tomorrow will be up there, but my best the next day will be there. So we can't always be at 100%. But as long as we're trying that 100% every single time, even me as a coach, my best isn't consistent some days. Sometimes there's things that keep us occupied at home. Sometimes there's things that worrying about our futures, all these type of things. So it's difficult to always send all that energy, and we're all human beings. So I feel that we've got an environment that we've created where players are able now to come and say to us, listen, when we do spot them, especially with the forwards, they can say, listen, something's not right, but it's one thing I can't moan about in Ireland, and I think we can be very proud of our guys from that sense. We're not perfect, we're conscious of that, but are we striving to be it every day? Absolutely.
Tom, do you think sometimes here we undersell ourselves, both as players and maybe organisations, that we're not? There's a little bit of time that the belief maybe isn't there. There's a message that's sometimes put out by media that this side is always better than this side, but. I learned in South Africa how hard you guys work when I was there. It's non-stop. I mean, it's keeping up with it was tiring without having to actually do it. But do you think that is something that is getting better in terms of people actually saying, listen, you guys are good enough, let's just go and do it?
I think it's definitely getting better, and I think just the success of the Irish provinces and the national team in general has just been incredible over the last number of years. So I think we can't really use that as an excuse now. I think everyone knows Irish rugby players and Irish teams in general are at the top of world rugby at the minute. So I don't think it's really an excuse we can use anymore. But as you said yourself, we work very hard, and as Dewalt said, we're a hard-working country. So I think it's definitely, the perception of Irish rugby is definitely changing, and we're probably seen as one of the best rugby nations in the world now. So.
Yeah. The reason I'm smiling is there was a guy on Wales Online today, which is not the sharp. Some of the comments are not from the sharpest people in the world, but the comment was, I just wanted to see if you were listening. But this chap came, or I don't know, maybe it could have been a lady because we didn't get a name, but they were telling everybody that Connacht are a semi-pro team. So I think the inference was that we're not well enough looked after by the IRFU. So I think a few people had to go and explain to them that actually it doesn't quite work like that anymore. So it's a funny one. Well, you're coming into this setup now. You're taking your first steps. What's it like to come in and, you have people like Dewalt or Tom or Jack Carty or Andy Friend or whoever is around, information's coming at you at high speed. But what's the environment like to be in?
It's class, to be fair. It's always obviously unbelievable, really cool to be in a professional sports environment. But obviously over the last 2 or 3 years, I've kind of had little bits given to me, and over the last year or so, I've kind of been integrated more with them and just learned more. And this year, it's felt like it's been pretty seamless to just get stuck into it, and as if I'm anyone else. And obviously to learn off people like Bundy and Jack Carty and Dales and these lads who obviously have massive experiences, it's class.
And is it easy to ask for advice or maybe take advice when you're not maybe expecting it, and somebody comes and says, look, this is the way it is, and you've got to be open to that. You've got to accept that, I suppose, they have the experience. Is that hard to do, or are you conditioned to listen out for that?
Oh, well, as one of the young lads, I know that obviously what I know is not much compared to these lads. So whatever advice they have for me, I'll obviously take on board, and I'll be delighted to get it. So it's pretty easy, to be honest.
Now, the question is for the weekend. The team will be announced tomorrow. But of course, and I'm probably not supposed to ask this, but could we be seeing maybe 1 or 2 of the centre partnerships somewhere in this room at the moment? Or are you still waiting for that? Well, coach, have you actually, because these guys are in the backs, I mean, have you sort of went, I don't pay any real attention to them, it's just my forwards I have to look after?
I normally stop looking at the team sheet after 1 to 8, I'll be honest with you, William.
And,
but,
and 16 up on the bench,
yeah, and with all the betting stuff going on now, we can't give away too much. But there's a very good chance of seeing a new centre pairing this weekend, and a very exciting one at that, yeah.
Very tactfully answered. You can make of that what you will, folks. What are you expecting from Newcastle? I did their press conference today. They seemed more concerned about finding a television so they can watch the England-France quarter-final. That was actually one of the main topics of the discussion. But I'm sure when they land here, they'll have something different in mind.
No, one thing that we have seen with this team is that it's a team that obviously has to fight every weekend in the Premiership, and they've come. They're not the biggest Premiership team, but they are still big lads. But one thing that has jumped at us is that there's a lot of variety in their game. It's not just sometimes when you play Ulster now, we know we got a big morning threat there that's coming at us, or when you play Leinster, you know there's going to be a lot of attacking plays, and then certain teams will have a lot of trick plays. So this is a bit of a mix of it all, where when they get close to your line, they will stress you on a morning perspective, but there's a lot of trick plays down the short side, over the 15, a lot of different launches. So there will be a lot of us being thrown at us. So it's really important for us just to respect our key principles in attack, defense, small, line out. Even from a line-out perspective, a lot of teams will walk in and they'll just jump. This team is walking and changes shapes and jumps all over the show. So there's a lot of things happening, but a lot of smoke and mirrors there. So really, we've prepared really well this week, and I think the group that we've got for this game is going to bring a lot of energy to the game. But just looking at some of the numbers on this page, Newcastle has had our number on a few occasions. So, and the gods of rugby just shows if we don't respect our position and we don't put all the ingredients, the preparation, the combat part of it, the intent, the passion, and all our strategies in place, then we won't deserve to win. But I'm not afraid about that. We're at the sports ground with a passionate group of people on the field and a passionate group of people around the field. So I'm really excited to see what we're gonna bring and hopefully impose our game. Just on that question to Dales, is like, that's what I want to see us, and that's our biggest growth. And I think we've started to show that, is that we impose our game and we put our stamp on games and not just prepare to stop opposition strengths. And I think we go in the right direction now just for us to do it more consistently. But the beauty of it is we've got a really young group, but this young group has now been together 2, 3, 4 years. And that cohesion from a rugby perspective, from a living together perspective, if we can keep this group together for another 1 or 2 years, it's going to be really, really interesting. So, hopefully we'll have a lot of people out at the sports grounds, have a look at that beautiful pitch and that great lights and a few good beers next to the field. And the catering's pretty good around there as well. So, and I know that they're putting up a bit of a show for the families again. So, looking forward to having everybody out there on Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it as well. Tom, looking forward to the following week, Friday night, 9 o'clock kickoff in France, which is very unusual but very French. You're going to come up against a couple of ex-Connacht players. What's that going to be like? Abraham Papali'i and Sammy Arnold are now at Brive.
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting to come up against the two lads. I was actually chatting to Sammy last week and exchanged a few messages, and sure, I would have played 30 or 40 of my Connacht caps are probably alongside Sammy in the centre, so it'll be interesting playing against him. And then you have the other mutant running at you, Big Abe running at you first phase. I can say I'm looking forward to that, but I'm not sure I am. But no, it'll be good crack coming up against them. And as I said earlier, playing against French teams in particular is always exciting, and this 9 o'clock at night kickoff is something different that we don't get here. So something different about playing in France, and yeah, I suppose having the two lads coming up against us will add a bit of spice to it. I'm sure they'll be looking forward to taking a crack off us as well. So no, it'll be a good fixture. Hopefully, I'll get involved in that one as well.
Yeah, Big Abe was captain in a top 14 game there a few weeks ago, and that was an interesting decision by them, I think. He just didn't quite. It didn't work for him here, and we hope it works for him over there. It's a tough environment when they're down the bottom of the league. Just give me a quick idea with a 9 o'clock kickoff. When do you eat? How do you how do you get your food in? I know you kick off it, but how difficult is that? Or then swing it round and you're starting. Some of these European games can kick off at 12:30, which we're not doing this year, thankfully.
I think the majority of players will tell you the earlier the better, because you just get up, have your breakfast, and go. I think we played at 3:15 last weekend, and that was a lovely time. You get up, have your breakfast, chill out for an hour or two, and have a pre-match meal, and you're gone. Whereas the later the game is, the more time you have hanging around the house all day, thinking about the game probably. So you just try to switch off mentally, and maybe a couple of hours before you're due into the sports ground, you might start switching on and have your pre-match meal, and then you're into it. Once you get into the sports ground, it kind of just flows like every other game. You have your routine, and it just goes by. But I think the majority of rugby players will actually tell you they prefer playing earlier, whereas I'm sure the fans prefer the later kickoffs because they have time to have a few beers and Murty's beforehand. But
absolutely,
yeah,
has to be done. Let me tell you in brief, when you win, and it finishes, and the media goes on till about 12:30 the following morning, you won't get a drink in Brive that night, so you'll just have to go home and to your hotel and have a coffee or something, because I could never find a meal in Brive after 8 o'clock in the evening, which is one of the reasons it's down the bottom of my list of places to go. But we are going, don't worry, Galway Bay will be there, full live commentary. Cathal, what are you expecting in European rugby? That's another challenge for you? It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, obviously it's my first taste at it, and obviously as a young Galway man growing up, I would have come to a lot of the Connacht games as a fan, and the main memories that I remember probably are those massive European nights, because the atmosphere in the sports ground is always just something else, and just massively electric. So I can't wait to have a crack at it, and it's just massively exciting for me.
Well, we wish you well. I hope it goes well. Who's going to win on Saturday, by the way?
I don't even think that's a question.
Dewalt, Tom, Cathal, thank you very much for your time. Good luck for the rest of the season. Good luck on Saturday. I'd say most of these people will be up there. It's going to be freezing cold. I hope it's a really special, and you have a very warm welcome for Newcastle before we head to Brive the following weekend. And then it's Ulster and Leinster, so it doesn't get any better. Thanks for your time. Good to talk to you, and we'll catch up soon.
Thank you.
Now, we're going to have a short intermission here, which will give you an opportunity to recharge your glasses or use any other facilities. And more importantly, start buying raffle tickets. I don't know who's selling the raffle tickets. They're 3 for $5. So get stuck in. The more you buy, the more chance you have of winning to raise some money for the Make-A-Wish Foundation. We're going to be back in about 15 minutes with our second panel of the evening. So in the meantime, sit back, relax, buy your tickets, and we'll be going again very soon.
Ladies and gentlemen, please show your appreciation once again for our barbarians, which we didn't mention, Tom Daly and Cathal Forde and Dewalt Senekal. Bizarre piece of information, only Alan Deegan would come up with this, but when we move to our second half, and we'll be looking back at 1997, Tom Daly was only 4, and Cathal Forde wasn't even born. So it's going to be very interesting to hear our next 3 guests. Right, tickets are now on sale. A $5, you get 3 strips. We've got 7 wonderful prizes. You've got the 2 Christmas tree packages with your tickets for the Sharks, Breve and the Lions. You've got the Murty Rabbits vouchers, 2 of those, €50 each. The Jameson and whiskey sets, and we've got 2 of those. And our main prize, the tickets for the game on Saturday against Newcastle and the full hospitality package all in. And we'll show you and tell you about the presentation of those said in a little while. Remember also, for those of you who are watching on stream, an opportunity as well to donate to Make-A-Wish. And I think we have also been given an 8th prize, and that is a home jersey from Connacht Rugby. So, brand new, still in the package, still fresh, looking absolutely gorgeous. So we now have 8 prizes to give away here in Murty Rabbits tonight. And remember, we are raising money for Make-A-Wish, so please give generously. If you're watching on stream, go to Make-A-Wish, the Make-A-Wish website. Full details are there, how to donate, and please give as generously as you can. Part 2 is coming up in 15 minutes, so stick your hand in your pockets and get those tickets bought quickly. Thank you. 1, 2. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're about to start with the second part of our special. So, if you haven't got yourselves a drink, do it as quickly as possible, and we'll get the second half of this show underway. Ready to go? Ladies and gentlemen, you are very welcome back to the home of the Connacht clan, Murty Rabbits, here in Foster Street in Galway. And before we move on to the second part of our special, we have to mention there have been people watching us from all over the last half an hour or so. And I want to mention Esther and all the guys and girls in Bordeaux who are tuned in this evening. And also, by the way, a couple of rather famous people have been tuning in as well. Tommy Seymour, very good evening to you. Thanks for joining us as well. He wanted to send his best wishes to Cathal Forde and Tom Daly, and we have done that. But it is now time for the second part of our special, and reminding you as well that you can donate to Make-A-Wish. The instructions, the links, it's all on our Galway FM Sports social media channels, whether it be on Facebook, Twitter or YouTube. The link is down below. Just click on that, donate. Please give what you can. It is greatly appreciated. Like the people have been doing here, they have been buying those tickets in their droves because we've got some fantastic prizes to give away at the end of all this, with that very special prize of the tickets to Connacht and Newcastle on Saturday afternoon in the sports ground, and the full hospitality package thrown in for good measure. But it's time for me to hand over to this man on my right, because it's time for the second part of our special. Ladies and gentlemen, please give it up one more time for William Davies.
Thank you, folks. Welcome back, everybody. I hope you've all been buying up those raffle tickets, and we'll be doing that draw at the end of this. But this is the second section. We're going to look back to 1997-98 European season for Connacht. The first man that I'm going to welcome he was the number 12 inside centre for that team. He's Connacht player 617 in terms of he was the 617th player selected to play for Connacht. He has 48 caps. He's now head of player development in Connacht Rugby. A big welcome for Mervyn Murphy. Now, this man probably doesn't need an introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyway. He was Connacht player 578. He played 168 times for Connacht, mostly at out half. He still is Connacht's leading points scorer, but a certain Jack Carty is sneaking up behind him at a hell of a rate. He's on 1152. Jack Carty's on 1117. So that's pretty close. He has played for Connacht. He's coached Connacht. He's now the academy manager. A big welcome for Eric Elwood. Eric, you're welcome. Good to see you. And now our third panel member, who was the number 15 throughout all of those European games. In fact, these three gentlemen all played all of the games. He was Connacht player 659 with 22 caps. He now has a sort of a job up in Connacht. It's a pretty important job as well. He runs the whole operation. He's the boss up there in the sports ground. Welcome, Willie Ruane. Lads, 25 years ago, 1997. What do you remember? Europe, Connacht, gone off doing things that nobody done before. First Irish province to win in England, first Irish province to win in France. And that's absolute fact. You went over there, did the job. It was exciting. It was very different. So what? Give me some memory. Start with you, Willie.
This could be embarrassing because we were only joking outside. We don't remember an awful lot of it. Mervyn and Eric did a bit of research before they came down to remind themselves, so they might have a better take on it. It's interesting. I think different people will take away different memories from that year. Most of my memories are actually off the pitch, whether it's the moments in a dressing room or in a meeting room before we go to the ground, or whether it's coming off the pitch or whatever else. The actual games, I don't recall an awful lot of them, but that's kind of the way I would have. It's the same with most of the games that I would have played. There's certain moments that you remember, and obviously they're great memories, but it was more a general sense of what that time was like, and it was pretty special, in fairness. Now, they were just a really good bunch of people, the players that we all played with. I think everyone will vouch for that. A good mix of guys that were from around here, but also guys that came from outside the province, but absolutely bought into what we were about. And you know, you take guys like Billy Mulcahy, who just was Mr. Connacht, and you know, played so much rugby in Skerries and elsewhere. But he was just such a great guy, and he set the tone for everyone that came into the province in terms of what was expected of people. Obviously these guys were leading the way in that regard as well.
Eric, we were chatting there just to get a sort of a handle on, you had some professional players signed up at that stage, but then you had players who were working and having to fit their training and all that around their work schedule. So it was a completely different setup to what we have now.
Yeah, absolutely. The game of rugby went pro in '96. Ireland probably didn't really embrace it until the year after. So as you rightly say, some players like myself were contracted, but there was guys that were working a day job. There were guys that were part-time. There was guys who literally just couldn't make some sessions. So you weren't always playing with a full deck, so to speak, as regards your squad numbers and who was available, because there was just the times, because we were in that transition period of amateur to pro rugby. And I think when you talk about '97, we had 6 games, we win 5 of them, and then when you're going to places like Northampton at home, it was a beautiful sunny day. I remember we won 43-13, and I always remember we were talking to someone in the RFU, and they heard, how did Connacht get on today? And they made the comment that 43-13. I says, they put up a decent fight, so did they? And he goes, no, Connacht actually won. So it was all those things that were still there. And then, you know, obviously we had to go into their place, and they were stacked with internationals and British Lions, and we went over there and beat them in their own place. So memories like that, and as you say, Begley Bordeaux, very special group of players, as Willie said, and good memories.
Mervyn, did you realise at the time that you were sort of making history, or does that not matter maybe when you're in a team setup and you're just playing the game? You're not actually sitting there doing that side of it, you're just doing the playing side.
Yeah, to be honest, it was, as Willie was saying earlier on, it kind of became more of like an adventure, really. We didn't, it came upon us so fast. If we went professional in '95 and all of a sudden we were working and all of a sudden semi-professionals, all of a sudden it was more like a bit of a blur, really, and it was exciting. It was a bit of a dream to train like a pro half the day and then work in a proper job for the other half, and then mix and match. And to be honest, it was a bit of a blur, but it was just such fun along the way. But then when Gats came in, I mean, he changed the whole dynamic, and that was the time I kind of went semi-pro. It was '97, '98 when Gats came in, and I remember our first training camp. You boys probably remember it, over in Reading, the Oratory Boarding School in Reading, and that's when we first got introduced to just real professional training, and it was hard. It was really, really hard, and every one of the boys in the squad we had pushed ourselves to the limits, and we'd never trained like that before. We'd never experienced anything like that before. But it all came together, I guess, in the fact that we had a lot of good players. We had a technically very good pack. Gats got us to a level of training where I remember one particular session, it kind of culminated in everything over that period was a training in France midweek between the Nice game and the Begley Bordeaux game, where I don't think we dropped a single ball in a training session, and that was something we prided ourselves on. We took massive confidence out of that, but none of us had ever trained at that level before. And the other thing was Gats introduced a blitz defence that we had never come across before, never been used to, or we were just getting hard off the line. And a lot of people credit Sean Edwards for bringing that into the Welsh setup, but it was actually Gats who really started that. And he introduced it with us, and probably that's how I'd say the one factor we had above all the other teams we came across is our defence was unbelievably good, and our discipline was very, very good, except for that one game in Agen where it kind of fell apart that afternoon a little bit. But up until that, we were very tight. We were very tight, very organised, and we got ourselves to a level of training and playing matches that was bordering on professional. Wasn't quite there, but it was bloody close. And we'd never experienced that before. Eric probably had, coming from the level he was playing on. He was obviously an Irish international. But for the rest of us, I don't know, Willie, it was tough, wasn't it? But it was worthwhile.
No, it was. And I suppose one of the things that people probably mightn't appreciate is Gatty himself was learning how to be a coach. I mean, that was really Gatty's, he had coached Wegians, I think, but that was his first full-time gig. And so even as much as all as we were learning how to be professional, the coaches themselves had no sense how to be professional. So if you think of it, most coaches would have coached Tuesday night, Thursday night, match on a Saturday. Now they had to have a session on a Monday morning, a session on a Monday afternoon. They actually didn't even know how to fill the sessions themselves. So to be honest, some of the training was very repetitive because they ran out of things to do. But when they got it right, I mean, it was, and look, we were very fortunate that Gatty was so creative so that he kept it fresh as much as he could, and yet still, you know, I joke it was hit the bag, go to the ground, clean it out, hit the bag, go to the ground, clean it out. And as a back, there was only so much that you wanted to do. But he just kept it fresh in terms of introducing novel and new ways of coaching, whether it was a 13-man line-out or whether it was, as Mervyn says, a blitz defence or whatever else it was. And it was really, we were very fortunate to have Gatty at that time because there was, as Mervyn said, there was a kind of an adventure about it for both sides, the players and the coaches. And Gatty was a kind of a strange fish, you know. He's a super coach, but I remember at the end of the year they did a kind of a review where the coaches asked to review themselves. So they did a survey for all the players to kind of give feedback on the coaches. And I remember Gatty got the lowest score possible on communication, but the highest score possible on motivation. And I couldn't figure out how he was motivating us. He wasn't even talking to us. But he managed to do it, and he used intermediaries in terms of the other coaches. Cozzy, who was the backs coach, he just was really, really clever. He was able to tap into a mindset without him even being in the room giving rousing speeches. He wasn't that type of coach. But you'd go to war for him, that's for sure.
So there was a huge buy-in there, Eric, with him, because he was somewhat different. I mean, he was from overseas. He played for New Zealand. He landed here, and let's face it, he's still coaching at a very high level. So he must be pretty good. Wales have signed him, so they might have made a good decision there, I think. But what was the buy-in? What did the players think? Did the players think this is alien, or was it a case, listen, let's give this a go? How did you run through it in your minds?
Well, for us, it was, I know people talk a lot about environments. He created that environment the lads have just touched on, where he had a special talent of bringing people together. And even though Gatty was a hooker, he had a great understanding of back play. He could converse with me or an outside back or a centre about holding your space or holding your feet or pushing the ball wide. He was very knowledgeable. He was a great student of the game. And even at that very young age, because you got to remember, Gatty was still in his early 30s when he was doing that. So he just had a skill of bringing people together. People would have went to war from our group, you know, 5 out of 6 victories. And just the manner in which we listened to him, bought into what he was saying, worked for each other beside us. And that's a special talent. And he just had a knack, and he wasn't afraid to try things. I know Willie touched on, like, we scored off a 13-man line-out against Australia, and I always remember Campese running across to the ref and some of these guys, you can't do that, you can't do that. And we did it in Northampton, and Johnny Marr scored. I also remember he asked me one day, he says, when we get close to the line, I want you to head the ball, so Nigel is going to run through with the centres. And I says, huh? He goes, because when you put the ball to your head, it's not deemed a knock on. So we had a play where I'd get the ball and I'd head it on the ground so we would pour through against the defence. So I was the fool that had to get it in between the gap of the centres rather than get blocked down. So stuff like that where people wouldn't even think about it. So it was still within the rules and the laws of the game. That
I have to say on that though, Eric never tried it. It was actually Nigel who actually tried it. Eric couldn't get his head around it at all.
Yeah.
And Nigel went up.
That's true.
We played a match
True.
against London Irish, wasn't it, over there, a pre-season friendly. And Nigel, unbeknownst to anyone else, went up to the referee before the game and says, by the way, if I hit it, is that not a knock on? You man went, no, and he goes, lovely. We were in the game and he just runs up and goes, boom.
Yeah.
And he was only for the bounce of a ball that actually nearly scored. And your man was shaking his head at him going, oh, Jesus.
That's typical of Nigel. But again, we were all learning, we were all evolving. But after that 97 season, like 3 months after that, Gary was coaching Ireland. So you talk about come over from New Zealand. He got a call when we were in Stockholm on a summer tour, and he came over, and then he did the set in 97. 3 months later, he was coaching Ireland.
So there was a breath of fresh air situation there. But by giving you this, we'll go to war for him, did that also transfer to we'll go to war for Connacht? Was this part of it, that this galvanised the whole idea around Connacht, maybe more than had been there previously, because there was somebody there really squeezing you?
Yeah. You see, we tapped into, we actually got T-shirts done up, like to hell or to Connacht. That's where, like, obviously we spoke about the west of Ireland, the siege mentality. We're in this together. To hell with everybody else. This is all about us, our own little bubble and cocoon. And we fed off that because it was important that we recognised where we come from. Willie spoke about Wiggs Mulcahy. There was Shane McEntee, Mick Fenley. There was other guys, Junior Charlie, Mark McConnell. They all bought into that because we all know it's a special place. But you have to have that care factor, and we use that to our advantage. And we warmed up in our To Hell or to Connacht T-shirts, and people used to ask, "What's all that about? What's all that about?" And we were saying, "This is Irish history, the west of Ireland, sent to Connacht, To Hell or to Connacht, and so on and so on." So we really tapped into that, and Gary's good at that, of just pressing those emotional buttons that would get you motivated. That it really meant something to you. You know what you signed up for. You're here for this, so you know exactly what's coming down. And, rugby's important. That emotional energy, that's really important in a team sport, particularly in a contact sport like rugby. And those things can be powerful.
Sorry. It's interesting, William, there's almost a compounding effect that I just felt like Eric had been involved for years before. So Eric will have understood kind of the journey. I suppose I just came in that year. And but what was incredible was Gary managed to instill a level of belief. And once we won against Northampton at home, and I remember actually finishing the game and going, "Oh Jesus, we are going to get such a beating over there." we've now just pissed them off. But honestly, after that, then you got a sense of belief that you could do it, and it was a proof point. It was a reference point. And then momentum is just incredible. It really, really is incredible the way it works in sport. And then all of a sudden, we just thought, yeah, let's go. And it's very, very hard when that momentum builds up to break through it, no matter how good a team is that's coming. And it was the most freaky thing that I've ever experienced, genuinely. But when you tap in the kind of the provincial emotion, which is what you're saying, I remember us in the hotel before we went to the ground in Northampton. And I think we all felt that we were probably coming to the end of the journey, but it had been an amazing journey because it was us or Northampton that were going through. And I remember we were in the dressing room, or not in the dressing room, in the hotel before we left. And for some reason or another, Red is the Rose became the song that we sung. And we were in the room, and Gary said a few quiet words. And then, and this is the great Gary. Gary had prompted someone just very quietly. I think it was Cozzy that started, just very quietly singing "Red is the Rose," and everyone just went quiet. And then the song took off. in the hotel, in the room, the meeting room, before we even got on the bus. It was off the charts. I've never ever experienced anything like that in all my years of being involved in sport. Actually, the only other time was getting off the bus in Edinburgh when everyone was singing the Fields Vat and Rye to the team. I mean, that's bananas. I mean, that was, it was funny to digress. I had to go straight into the changing rooms, and I went into the loo because I was getting a little bit too emotional. And as I was going into the loo and I was coming back out, all the other players were going into the loo afterwards because they were all shook by it. And fair play to them, they managed to harness it and tap into it. But that moment, that time, and it just meant so much to us. Like, genuinely, it really, really meant something to us that we were representing this place that is our home. And here we were doing it. And even if we were going to go out to be beaten, so what? Let's go out and give it socks. And then we went and won. And that was just amazing.
You know, you talk a lot about the people that are important to you in your life, obviously your family, your wife, your kids, your partners, whatever that might be. So you have two families. I always consider myself having two families. Like, I love my wife and kids, but my passion is rugby and Connacht Rugby. So we also had a rugby family, and we just had that tightness. And I genuinely mean that. That was our rugby family where you do anything for each other. And that's a time in your life that you will never forget. And that was 1997.
Mervyn, how did you react to that? I mean, I was trying to do that Fields of Athenry bit live on Galway Bay FM, which was quite tricky, I can tell you, because the emotions were very, very strong. It just gets you. Sport can bite you like that. But then you became an analyst, Mervyn, and you're having to look at the nitty gritty of it. How do you take a step back from that?
Yeah, it's funny looking back at it because, like the Agen game, that's the one I think about the Northampton one every now and again, and it brings back great memories of them. But the Agen one kills me because it was an opportunity lost. We had actually matched one of the best teams in France for a lot of the game, and like I said, when Benazzi and Benetton kicked in and they started bringing the power game, you could only live with it. And when I look back on it and I realised that we hadn't played a proper game, I think in 3 weeks leading up to that, and France were playing multiple games in the French Championship, and to be honest, that's a huge difference. You know, we for some reason there was a month layoff in between that game, and for some reason we just didn't hit our straps that night. And I guess looking back on it now as an analyst, you're kind of thinking of all the reasons why it did go wrong. It's funny, in Cedric Aymans, the guy who skint me in the midfield that evening, I think he was 19 years of age, and all I remember was this blonde, and of course it was the usual French in and away step that got me, and you just couldn't live with that. But I spent the next 6 years of my life working with Ireland, analysing Cedric Aymans, and whenever you'd be the night before chatting to Brian Driscoll, just watch the in and away step, because so to be honest, I kind of look back in some of those games, and I'd love to get the video hard copies again and see the sort of minor things, because I guess that's what my life revolved around, is technically looking at games and strengths and weaknesses and all that sort of lark. But yeah, I have an abide that annoyed me and still does to this day. Is that a game?
Yeah. Really? I didn't realise that at all. I think you hide it very well.
To be honest, it would have been very incredibly special if we'd got to play. I think if it was the Stade Francais, we could have been playing in the semis. Another big French team anyway. And I just think that would have been just such a moment to go to a semi-final stage of that competition. It was fantastic what we did, but to be honest, the semi-final was where the real big guns were waiting, and as a Connacht team of kind of amateur semi-pro players, I just think that would have been absolute unbelievable. So, and I kind of envy what the pro team did, like winning the Pro 14 or the Pro 12 at the time, and we weren't that far away. But what I loved about it was a team that might not be stacked full of internationals. If they get their game technically right and have a will to play for each other, it does cover over an awful lot of, in terms of lacking of power and whatever, and internationals. What you can do with that desire and that hunger to work hard for each other. Because I remember in that Northampton game, the only thing that was spurring me on was letting the teammates down. I spent the whole game absolutely bricking myself, because I was the kind of player, I didn't enjoy them. I didn't enjoy the environments on the field. when you have Ben Cohen and Nick Beale running at you, and I've never played against guys that big in my life, and you're just constantly tackle after tackle after tackle, and getting up off the ground was a particularly wet, crappy day over there. And to be honest, my biggest motivation was the fear of letting somebody down, and especially this guy here, because you'd know all about it for a few weeks after, that's for sure, because he never ever, and he, in fairness, he was the guy who drove us, absolutely drove us. We had a pretty good defensive axis, that team, didn't we? And I know Eric drove us. Conor McGuinness was an unbelievable rugby player. Shame about the way it all ended for him, because I don't know, he would have got more caps for sure. But just going back to what you were saying, that's the thing for me. I take away a huge amount from that year, but it's what could have been as well. Still bugs, you know. But anyway, that's just me.
You see, that's what sports people are like.
Yeah.
They think around it. Just beat Northampton, then you lost in Nice to this weird penalty try, which robbed. I think Warren Gatlin described the penalty try as astounding. Nobody actually knew what it was awarded for. He just the referee obviously thought, Christ, they know where my car is. I better give these guys a penalty try. Then you beat Bordeaux. Home fans were extremely unhappy at full time, and it was raucously unpleasant for Connacht leaving the field. Yeah, I've been to Bordeaux. Yeah, that's a noisy spot. Then you beat Nice. You beat Bordeaux here. It was just, as you say, Willie, it was just a roll. And look, you're talking about the 9th of September, 14th of September, 20th of September, 27th of September. There's no gaps here. You're sort of playing every week. October, and then November in Agen. The big game down there, you won 2015 over there. Some Northampton player who I think is still a pundit, and I've forgotten his name, which is probably just as well. He said Connacht played anti-rugby, which I thought, coming from Northampton, was absolutely hilarious.
It was good anti-rugby.
Yeah, you won. But I mean, it was just this sort of, how dare they come here and beat us in our home patch.
I as Mervyn says there, it was pouring down rain and the pitch was a mess. And I was telling the lads earlier on, all I remember is Johnny Maher, the Becht of Sausage, as we used to call him, who was our loose head at the time. And Johnny was given out to me because I kept kicking the ball back. So they'd kick the ball down to us and I'd fong it down the pitch as far away from, because if you just got hit, there was contact, the ball was popping out. And Johnny was given out to me for kicking the ball all the time. And I said, you're not coming back here to give me a hand. So I just kept kicking it. So I'm probably guilty as charged in terms of anti-rugby.
Looking at what Connacht achieved then, and, I was saying to you inside, it's a sort of the way I look at it is we're sort of the custodians of Connacht. We're going to be passing it on to somebody else, the players that have played, the fans. I've been 49 years since I went my first game at the sports ground, which was against New Zealand, and I still go up there with the same sense of excitement. I'm looking at it slightly differently now, but for people like yourself who are involved, Eric, you're in the academy, you're bringing forward the next group of players. Mervyn is out scouting for the next group of players, looking after them. Willie, you're running the whole situation, and obviously we'll talk about stage one in a minute and what that has achieved, but is that part of it, that it is a special place and it's, I'll be here, this is my time to do my Connacht stuff, but it'll be passed on, and it's been going on from generation to generation?
Yeah, look, I mean, of that team, the three of us are involved. Nigel was obviously involved for a very long period of time. Barry Gavin, who played at the time, has been a member of the board for a good few years, actually only just finished up this year, chairperson of the Pro Rugby Committee. So there's a lot of people. Conor McGuinness was a member of the board and on the professional games board as well. So a lot of people have given back, and it's just because it means an awful lot. And if I'm being honest, I mean, the guys can vouch for this, sometimes it nearly means too much. It actually can consume you because you become obsessed with it. There is no off. And, I'd love to say to you I enjoy the games. I don't. I keep saying to everyone it'd be a great job if there was no matches, because it just means too much. It means too much. Too much rides on it. And unfortunately, when you're in this space, and this might sound a little bit sad, but this is the reality of it. When you win, the satisfaction is so fleeting. It's not even minutes, it's seconds. And the win represents your weekend not being messed up. It's not that you celebrate the win, because already you're on to the next thing. And even when we won in Edinburgh, I remember standing on the pitch, and before the trophy was even lifted, I remember thinking, where to from here? And that was it, it was done. And the only other two moments that you could really take something out of it was when we arrived back into Knock, and there was people standing in the dark. Just a couple of thousand people standing in the dark in the dark in Knock Airport, and that was just off the charts. And then when people came up to the sports ground after, I remember the bus coming down and going around, and I stayed in the sports ground, and I thought, Jesus, I wonder, is there anyone down the town at all? And we were waiting up on the ground, and genuinely the bus came up, and I went, oh God, this could be embarrassing. And then this just flood of people. And I remember standing at the very back of the pitch where the gate is, and looking down towards where the stand was, and it was hard not to get overwhelmed by it. I met a man who was in his 80s, and there was tears flowing down his face. That's the stuff that really meant something. But as I say, outside of that, it was done, it was gone, because we were already in the office that morning, actually, myself, Pat, and Tim, trying to figure out from and we may not get it all right, of course we don't. But it was done, it was gone. And that's the kind of joy and the sadness that comes with professional sport, because you're already on to the next thing. You don't get to actually enjoy it. It's a fear of losing nearly more so than enjoying the joy of winning. And that's why all those people are up there. That's the way they're wired. They're wired with a kind of an obsession and a compulsion that kind of drives them. And it's incredible. I could never be a coach, because I just wouldn't be able to regulate the emotions that come with that. And honestly, I can't say enough for the coaches, these guys who have done all that work, and the players who go out there and do it all the time. And people don't really appreciate, because when you use the word professional, you think it's all paid. There is an unbelievable amount of people who give their time voluntarily to come and to be part of running Connacht Rugby. I think Park Moran, the president, I saw him walk in there. I mean, the amount of time he gives, board members, they give, and that becomes, as Eric said, a family. That's the real professional sport. If we were just a franchise, it means nothing. But we represent this part of the world. We represent a people and a place. That's the meaning in it. The game of rugby is a great game of rugby, but at the end of the day, you're kicking a ball around a field. What you do is you represent people and place. And that's why we all have been involved for as long, because we love it.
And this place is different. I think it's different. I think it's different to anywhere else in Ireland. I think it's different to anywhere else in Europe. We have to fight very hard sometimes to get anything, but it's a bit unique down here, and it's wonderful. And I will always tell people that.
Look, it is, and it needs to be different. And in a way, God forbid, it needs to be hard. But again, I say to people, my passion is my cross. It's the thing I love, but it's the cross you carry, because it is so bloody hard. But that's what makes it satisfying, because when you do defeat Goliath, whoever Goliath is, when you do achieve what other people don't think you have the right to achieve, that's the stuff that's just magic. Cully Tucker and Mossy and Dewalt were over in England recently for the English camp. They went over during the Autumn Nations to spend time in Eddie Jones's company, and that I'm not sure what they did to him, but Eddie Jones said to them, he says, I love what you do, because in many ways you've no right to do what you do. And some of that can be, you need to be careful that it doesn't become a pat in the head, and that it becomes patronizing. But at the same time, I do think there's an appreciation that the sum of the parts is always greater than the individual components. and that's the piece. So we'll be gone, and there'll be another group that'll come in, and they'll be better than the sum of the parts as well, or the sum of parts will be better than all of those as well.
Do you feel that? Do you feel that the same way, that it's mine now and I'm here to help it, but it's something we want to keep passing on? I mean, Connacht have gone through up and downs in the last 25 years, but we're still here. We're still fighting.
Yeah, and that goes with the mentality and the mindset of the people of the west of Ireland through hardship, be it the weather or be it, things that go on in our lives. But we don't cry victim. We just stay in the fight. And I think once you're in the fight, you've always got a chance. And through the hard work of the people who've gone before us, generations of people who've kept the ship afloat, kept on pushing, kept on fighting the fight, or putting their head above the pulpit to speak out, they are all part of that. And I just see my job currently in the academy now. We talk about, for 130 something years, we now have a North Star of a new stadium, a new high performance centre. The pitch is done, the lights are done. That is something that we all dreamed about that would happen in our lifetime. And I can be a part of it, because in my various roles within Connacht, I used to say to the staff, there were 3 questions I always used to ask, is that, are our kids lucky or unlucky enough to have us as our coaches? Are our kids lucky or unlucky to be born in the west of Ireland? And can our kids fulfil their dreams and ambitions by playing their rugby in Connacht in the west of Ireland? We have always fought that, but now it's becoming really real. Well, what's going to happen in the stadium, the high performance centre, is that you can fulfil your dreams and ambitions, you can fulfil your potential by playing your rugby in the west of Ireland, doing your college in Galway and playing with Connacht. That's what keeps me going. That's what excites me. And unfortunately, in days gone by, some of us had to go further afield because there was no AL rugby. That could potentially on our doorstep in a few years' time. And that North Star has to be something to be applauded, and we look forward to the day when it's done.
Well, so do we. Willie, the first phase is finished. The pitch is in. The synthetic surface, as I've been told, I'm not allowed to call it artificial, so I've been teaching myself synthetic. But the lights are in. It is starting to happen. People are genuinely excited now. They've seen that. The second phase is coming. I know that's tricky to talk about because it's gone out to the tender situation, but there is a dynamism there now that will, as you say, maybe that drives itself on. When you get one bit done, the next bit will happen.
Yeah, look, I mean, I suppose it's easier for us because we're in the middle of it. So we have different moments where it's very, very real for us. And so we can get really excited about it, even though we're living with it for the last few years in terms of the project. Last week, for example, we had the interior designers in for the high performance center and the interior designers in for the stadium part. And you're going through locker designs, you're going through dressing room designs, you're going through carpets, bar layouts, all that kind of stuff.
Media center designs as well?
I think there was a shed out the back. No, we have a special spot, William. But there is, and it's actually a pretty cool media space, actually. So that stuff, when you're looking at that, and you just think, oh my God, the players are going to love this. And then you look at a bar space and and seating area, and you just know that supporters are just going to love it. And that's what gets you excited again. It's daunting, don't get me wrong. It is a daunting project, particularly with everything that's going on. But when you have those moments where you get stuck into it and you go, oh yeah, that's class. And there's something special about designing locker rooms for a team. And you can imagine the team sitting in there and getting ready to go out. And this is their pit. This is the place that they're going to battle from. It's hard not to get excited about that stuff. And so that's been pretty cool. As you know, we're in the tender process. So the first phase is SAQs, where you basically invite expressions of interest to be involved in the tender. They're then rated, and then you shortlist those, and then they receive the tender pack. So we're at the second half of that first phase, and so hopefully the tenders will be back around March time, and we'll have a better sense then again as to where we're at that stage. But yeah, looking forward to it.
Stadium's coming on, Mervyn, as we've, as Willie's outlined there, but you're out looking talent spotting or looking after the players coming through. That is key as well, because without players, there's no team, and then there's no Connacht. So it's an important part of. Could you tell us something about that?
Yeah, I mean, I was a little late here getting this evening because I was just finished a session over in Athlone with some of the up and coming under 17s and under 18s from the regions over there. But I'll be honest, there's so much talent coming through there, and as Willie described there, the prize for them to reach the pinnacle and play their pro rugby with Connacht in a facility like what's coming on stream. It certainly makes me more motivated to help these kids get there, and my job is literally to go around the province and between games, week in, week out, schools games, club games of the weekend is literally to patiently watch and I suppose use my experience from my past career as an analyst and analysing players and seeing their strengths and weaknesses to put that to its potential and pick out the guys who are coming through. And it's taken me all over the province, and I've a colleague working over the northern region, Sebastian Delport, who's a huge help in that regard to me. But we're just scouring the region, and no stone gets unturned. We try and get to as many games as we can, Wednesdays, Saturdays, Thursdays, and then our own provincial talent sessions go on 2 or 3 times a week to bring them all in. But just the prize that's waiting for these guys some of these 16, 17-year-olds will be in their prime, coming into their prime when this facility is fully on stream, and it's just incredibly exciting. And you're actually dying to tell them, if you can go harder, if you can work harder and continue to work harder, you can be there. And but there's some brilliant talent coming through. There really is, and it's massively encouraging to see. And I think it's all going to come together very, very nicely.
How much fun is it to see a player? The one that stands out for me is Mac Hansen. He arrived here in July of last year. We didn't know anything about him. Almost a year to the day, he's playing in an Ireland side in New Zealand that's winning a series in New Zealand, which is unheard of for any team, let alone, Ireland. We might win a test match. It took us a long time. But does that keep you going? Does that energize you, Eric, when you're seeing that can happen, and then you can feed your players into that system, that somebody comes through the academy? Cathal was sitting here a while ago talking about it, and he's very excited about where he is and where he's got to, and he's got a lot more to do.
Yeah, of course he does. But like we said, it's important that it's a special person who comes to the west of Ireland, that they know what they're coming into. But I think they recognise the opportunity that Connacht is giving them. We work extremely closely with IQ Rugby in the UK. Mervyn and I do, and obviously we're looking further afield, and obviously Friendly and other coaches have contacts. So all those areas are important, because all we want is quality players who are Irish eligible, and then they can add value to Connacht. What I like about Mac is he's authentic, he's very individual, and for me, he doesn't look like the modern rugby player. I think we can all agree on that. And I when I met him first, he doesn't understand about Gaelic, but we had the chats, and he looks like a Junior B Gaelic footballer, because he's just, and I call him XL, that's my nickname for him, because he's so not like a rugby player, but he's got wonderful skills, he's a natural ability and understanding, and he has an element of flair, and people like that, and he's got his long hair and that stupid tash he has, but I can slag him about that. But that's what I like about Mac. He's very individual. He gets on with everybody. He's bought into what we're about, and he's got the rewards. But he's worked hard for them, and he's a good addition to our squad. He's a good person to have around the place, and he's fun.
And that's good for Connacht as well, because people know where he comes from, and he's bought. I don't like to use the word bought in, but he's landed here and he's taken on. He loves this place. I've talked to him. I mean, he thinks it's just brilliant because it's different. But that's what we need, because that that raises the profile and just helps the whole thing move forward.
I mean, I think one of the things that people really appreciate when they come over here. They're allowed to be with themselves. There is no kind of, there is no, I suppose, archetypal rugby player that there is from Connacht. So Mac comes over, and Mac is who Mac is. Seamus Hermley Langton, the quietest lad you'll ever meet. And Seamus is just such, like I saw him play one match, I can't recall which match it was, in the sports ground. And I was getting into the car with the kids driving home. And this was an evening match, so this must have been about 10, half 10. And I'm driving down to the Huntsman, and here's Seamus pedaling his little bike up the hill to go up past the G Hotel to get home. And I said to him the next day, "Where are we going on the bike?" He says, "Well, I haven't got a car yet." And he's such a lovely young fella. But he just loves the kind of vibe around the place. There's no pressure on him. He wants to perform himself. And that's special. Our model depends on us finding people like that. So when we're looking at players abroad, and the one thing I will say is, I don't know, do people have any idea just how important a Tim Allnut is in that process? Tim Allnut watches more rugby than nearly all of the coaches combined. He is unbelievable how much rugby he watches. So Tim will see players before anyone else has seen them. And so when we watch players, we tend not to watch Super Rugby. We'll watch NPC. And if we're watching NPC, it's probably before they've even shone at NPC that we're already onto them. So we will go to agents, and we will talk to agents about players from the Northern Hemisphere. So the way it works, a lot of the agents have a representative up here and a representative in New Zealand, and the company has dual mandates in terms of that. We'll go to the agents up here. They won't even know who we're talking about, and we'll go to them. I need you to find out who represents this player, and it could be their own company, but they won't even know who it is. And that's Tim. And so unearthing those players is something that has to be a key part of our model for us to be successful, because if we're getting them the same time everyone else gets them, they're already out of our price category. And just to talk about the work that these guys do, I mean, this week we were going through succession planning for the squad, and you're mapping out not just the squad for next year, 23-24, you're going to 24-25, and you're out to 25-26. Now, of course, when you're out to 25-26, the names are written in pencil because you're trying to figure out. But the guys that these guys are coaching, and I'm talking pre-academy even, those names are already penciled in there. And that's how close they are. They don't even know that their names are penciled in. They'll probably never know until such time as someone says to them, "There's a contract." But that's how close it is for them. So it's incredibly exciting. So when Mervyn is coaching them on a night, and they don't even know how close they are, that just shows you how much passion that Mervyn has to get them there, just to be able to make sure that pencil turns to ink.
Gentlemen, it's been fantastic to talk to you. You've given us a good insight. We've talked about 1997 and we've brought it right up to date because we're talking about 2026. We know the stadium's moving on. It's exciting times for Connacht Rugby. We've a big match on Saturday. Loads of big games to come along, but I want to say thank you to Willie Ruane, Eric Elwood, and the man beside me, Mervyn Murphy. Thank you. Well done. Thank you. Now, John Mulligan's going to come up and tell me how we're going to run the prize draw, which is all very, very important. Thanks again, gentlemen. So, what's happening here, John? Because this is your area of expertise now.
Okay. By the way, before we go any further, I want to just we should give our appreciation to Kieran and Adrienne, because they've done something very, very special indeed. And the money that's been raised, that has been raised online and through the tickets that have been sold, the raffle tickets that have been sold and everything else, they have matched it. So we have now raised, out of our lovely, wonderful crew of Connacht Clan supporters here in Murty Rabbits, we have raised over €1,000 for Make-A-Wish. Now, before we get to this, because I know you're all dying to know if you've won the hospitality package for Saturday afternoon, I do want to acknowledge there are two people here and they don't know that they're being brought up, but they are being brought up now. So will you please welcome the president of the Connacht branch, Pádraig Moran, and also the president, or as they call him jokingly, El Presidente of the Connacht clan, Shane Mulligan. Well, nobody told me. Now, this is the thing about being live. Shane is now not the president. Sean is. Sean, will you come up here? Well, listen, make it between yourselves. The joys of live streaming. As Shane called himself El Presidente. Sorry, Sean, I didn't know that. Come here. Come here. If you would just come over this side to me, so the camera will take. Actually, I'll go over this side.
Excellent.
Pádraig, if you'll take that microphone as well. Sean, I didn't know that Shane had been usurped. That must have been a bit of a bloodless coup.
It was democratic. It was fine. There was nothing illegal about it. So it was very friendly, a very friendly thing.
All right, just on the note of the fans, on Saturday afternoon, going to be a massive crowd heading to the sports grounds. The Connacht clan worked tirelessly to make sure that it works very well. A lot of work goes on behind the scenes. I mean, you've already started your own preparations for Donkey, so I mean, this is something you must all look forward to.
You do always. Every home game is important. The European games, as the lads said, are twice exciting, home and away. And we're just trying to promote it more for. I suppose we're as much as a supporters group we're another arm of our PR arm of Connacht Rugby. So it's just getting, I suppose, bums and seats in Connacht Rugby. So trying to fill sports grounds and trying to fill planes for away games.
And this coming Saturday, I mean, you're talking a near full house, probably a full house for the visit of Newcastle. So once that's done, preparations then go towards Brive and the travel that gets involved in this. And I remember speaking to you from countless airports over the past couple of seasons. What's going on? Where are the fans? What's the crack going? You know, that has to be taken into consideration as well. It can't just be people doing solo runs anymore. It has to be organised.
Yeah, but the joy is you also have experienced travellers like Mr. Mulligan below who would...
who never seems to be working. He's always on the road.
And Shane will text you, or just as you know, shall we go to Newcastle? Shall we go to Brive? And that is all it takes. And as I said to even to Pádraig beside me in Swansea, I've never met someone that went on a Connacht away trip and said, "I don't want to go again." It's addictive. You would hope that we get more crowds travelling to these away matches. They are great fun, and the bigger the crowd, obviously, better for the team, better support. But we try to promote to the clan. Our travel arrangements, our flights, our hotels, our ticket areas, so people can just maybe more easily organise their own weekends. And that's the idea of the away trips, yeah.
Pádraig, as president of the branch, it's an exciting time. We've spoken before and we've always talked about the enthusiasm that is there amongst the grassroots of the game. I mean, we talk about the professional side, they're the flagship team, but it's the supporters, it's the guys who are part of the clubs like your Corribs, your Connemara's, your Ballyhonnes's, your Claremorris's, your Sligo's, it doesn't matter. They're the ones who put the bums on seats and support these guys through thick and thin.
Definitely. I have to say, coming from a small club myself, I have to say I always look out for the smaller clubs. And the amount of work that has been done in junior rugby in Connacht in the last couple of years regards the youth rugby, female rugby and schools rugby is amazing.
Now, you were part of many of those committees. I think you were part of the underage competitions committee a couple of seasons ago, and a lot of that work, you know, given what happened with COVID, it was a difficult time because you had to try and get lads back playing again, but we didn't have the difficulties that was the case in some provinces.
I always say it's not always the best coaching you get the players out. It's a different personality than get the players out to coach, and unless you have fun, unless they enjoy it, that's the most important thing. And the most important thing in playing rugby, especially junior rugby, right? It's not all about winning. You go to enjoy it, and that's the most important thing. Have fun, enjoy it.
Any message for Connacht fans who are kind of half thinking? I don't know why they'd be half thinking about going up on Saturday anyway, but one or two might. Any words of advice for them? Get there. I think it's the message.
I have to say, going to sports ground, I think is amazing, and I have to say it's far more enjoyable to go to sports ground to go to any international game. And I have to say, we won't be long, and we're going to have a little republic of our own in Connacht in the next 100 years.
The new People's Republic of Connacht is now in session. Sean O'Connor, Park Moran, thanks very much indeed. Lads, don't go anywhere. Don't go anywhere because it's now time for this. Now, if you were here in Murty Rabbits, you were given a ticket. You had 3 strips for $5, and the prizes were absolutely brilliant. Now, what we're going to do, we are going to pick a ticket. The winner is going to come here and they're going to get a choice. The only choice they don't get is the main prize. They will get any one of the Christmas tree packages as regards tickets for games against the Sharks, Brieve and Lions. You've got the Murty Rabbits vouchers. There's two €50 vouchers. You've also got the wonderful Jameson and whiskey sets. And we've got 2 of those, the 70 CLs. And the guys from North Wales have been trying to bribe me. It's not going to happen, lads. And finally, our Connacht jersey as well, our Connacht home jersey. We're not forgetting that, so we have 8 prizes and our main prize, which are the tickets for Newcastle and the full hospitality package. So, ladies and gentlemen, Parky, if I'll get you to pick out the first one, if you don't mind. And everyone is now grasping their tickets. Remember that one on Father Ted where you're the priest and all that? And the number is no, it's not. It's pink ticket 191. Who's got it? 191. AH, we have Pat Lynch. Oh, sorry, Bernie's. Right, well, Pat, you now have a choice. You have the choice of the ticket packages, the Murty's vouchers, the whiskey, or the Connacht jersey. And no, you can't go for the main one just yet. So you're going to take the jersey. Well done, Pat.
Thank you.
Pat Lynch, which is Bernie Lynch, actually, by the way, Pat's wife, who's got it. So the jersey is now. Just make sure I've written this down. The jersey is now gone. Okay. Sean, you take the next one. And it's another one of these pink ones. It's 116 to 120. 116 to 120. It's this pink one. 116 to 120. Who has it? We have a... Wouldn't it be great, crack? Wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be gas, crack, if he went and picked one of the vouchers from Murty's? What are you going for? I go for the whiskey. He's going for the whiskey. One of the whiskeys is gone. Do you know what? It's going to be, I tell you, the last whiskey set's going to be almost fought over. Porky, you get the next one, please. That's 2 tickets gone out of the 8. We've still got 6, including the main prize. And it is 31 to 35. 31 to 35. Have we got... Are you joking me? The whiskey is gone. The whiskey is gone. No, you do know, as a member of staff, he has to open the bottles now. You have to open the 2 bottles and you have to share them amongst the lads and the ladies here inside. You've been warned. Sean. It's green and it's 41 to 45. It's a green ticket, 41 to 45. Do we have... Oh, no, I thought we had a winner. 41 to 45, green ticket. Andrew. Now, here's the gas thing now. Andrew has got the choice of the Murty's vouchers or the tickets as well. So what are you going for, Andrew? Going for the Murty's voucher. Fair play. No worries. Well done. Andrew, of course, is brother of Sean, of course, one of the great legends that looks after the grounds in the sports ground. So give him a massive round of applause. Our next one is, well, I call it salmon. It's 31 to 35, salmon ticket. And we've got 3 left. Have we got Michelle? So, are you going for the voucher? Are you going to go for the set of tickets? And please watch your leg. Please don't fall over. I never fall. You going for the voucher? Yes, she's going for the voucher. So we're now left with the 2 sets of Christmas trees. So these are the tickets for the games against the Sharks, the return meeting with Breve. Is he bringing it back? Okay, so he's, so we have another, yay! So we're back to 3 again, fair play. And it's 36 to 40, and it's another one of the salmon tickets. 36 to 40. 36 to 40. Michelle, again. Willie Ruane's looking at me as if I got 4 heads. Honestly, I have no idea, Willie. Honestly, Michelle, she's gone for the whiskey. Of course you are. We have put it around. Get lost, you. You're not president anymore. 261 to 265. 261 to 265. Jesus, I thought Brian. No. So you've got tickets. You've got a choice of, well, you've got a choice of the 3 games. A choice of 3 games. She's going for the 3 games, right? Okay, I'm going to spin these over one more time. Right. Okay, Sean, if you would, draw one. One of these tickets will get the Christmas tree, and then Pádraig, I will get you to draw the ticket that will give our main winner the tickets for the Newcastle game and the full hospitality package. It's salmon, 66 to 70. I hear 66 to 70. Oh, hold on. Whoa. 66 to 70. Well, it's... Do you know what? I'll give you the... do you know what? It's like AG 318042. On a tie break. AG 318042. And there you go. Congratulations. The tickets for the 3 games. We have got 1 ticket left. Our main prize. 2 tickets for Newcastle on Saturday in the sports ground. A full hospitality package. Wonderful premium seats. The full kit and caboodle. You have to bring your own jacket. You'll have to bring a seat for the clan stand. Eventually. Give it a couple of seasons, lads. Anyway, this is pink. And it's well over 100. It's 436 to 440. 436 to 440. Do you know, that would have been a romantic finish. Our lads from North Wales getting that. 436 to 440. Have we 436 to 440? Everyone's searching their tickets. I'm calling Connacht rules as regards this. I'm calling it 3 times. If it's not there, we're drawing again. 436 to 440 going once. 436 to 440 going twice. I'll take it. Cathal, stay here because we have to get your details and we have to do that. Ladies and gentlemen, the winner of our main prize, Cathal O'Connor. Give a massive round of applause. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is it from here in Murty Rabbits. I have a feeling the party is going to just get started off. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, Sean O'Connor, Pádraig Moore, and give a massive round of applause to all our guests who are here this evening. Would you please also give a massive round of applause to Dylan and Joseph, who've been behind the camera and giving us our live stream, to Adrienne and Kieran here in Murty Rabbits. Fantastic hosts, as always. We love you. Thank you so much indeed. And last time, please give it up for a fantastic host in William Davies. This has been a Connacht Rugby special, looking back on 25 years ago and on this season as we look forward to what's going to be a fascinating game on Saturday against Newcastle. Game live on Go Bay FM. Make sure that you join us for that. But from here in Murty Rabbits, we have one last thing to say, Cathal. William, all yours.
Yeah, quick one. Next Monday night on the Over the Line show, 8 to 9, it's going to be Jared Butler in studio with us. So please do tune in. We'll find out what Jared has to tell us. It should be great.
It's Over the Line with Jerry Murphy, William Davies, and the team from 8 until 10. JB is the special guest. But from here in Murty's, have a great night. Happy Christmas. Good night.